So we'll change the program to just actually like the cut short on the last section. And then so maybe three of us can actually be on that screen, and let's just actually have a bit of discussion. 3つ出せます。すいません。はい。So, Mr. Robert Owen has been actually in semiconductor business in 1980, since in 1980, and then he has been working for Texas Instrument, and then focused on that educational aspect of the, like digital signal processing and so forth. And he was at Xilinx, Digilent, EnOcean, Microchip, and ARM, all those like good names. And then yet another thing is like he built the university program of distributor of RS components. And then he joined the Imagination Technologies to build their university program, which is a great thing. So anyway, ロバート・オエンさんはですね、テキサス・インストゥルメントの UK のエンジニアで、半導体事業を始めたんですけれども、テキサス・インストゥルメントにおられて、それでですね、なんか1994年にですね、8ヶ月の契約で、教育プログラムを始めたんですけど、結局17年間ずっとやられたっていうことでですね、その後、EnOcean とかデジタルとか、マイクロチップとか ARM とか、そういった一流企業のコンサルタントとして勤務されて、最終的には RS コンポーネントを経て、Imagination Technologies に参加されました。そういうことでですね、ちょっとロバートさんからお話を伺いたいと思いますが、よろしくお願いします。Can you actually start off like Robert?
Yeah, well, Kawasaki-san, first of all, congratulations to you and Saito-san for putting together this event. I know it was a lot of work at a very short notice. I'd also like to say a special thank you to Amano-san, because Professor Amano has been a partner working with Imagination for quite some time. He as we mentioned, he's been a user of the MIPSfpga course, and he actually will be the translator for RVFPGA into Japanese, as Guanyang mentioned. And I had a few slides on university programs in general, but you know what? I think we've probably had enough slides today. So what I'd just like to do is to just say a few things about my view of RISC-V and the teaching environment. Those of you who know me know I've been involved in this area of business, between making links between universities and companies for many years. And it was an unexpected career. It's been a lot of pleasure. And I've always focused mainly on teaching. You know, some university programs have a lot of activity on research, and they regard teaching as perhaps not that important. And of course, companies are always looking out for recruitment. So that's another area that they focus on. But for us, and in my activities and the focus at Imagination is on, how can we make it easier for teachers to give really good basic skills? And RVFPGA is our latest example of that. The response we've had has been enormous. We are finishing the first release of the course at the moment, and as always, it's a race to get everything ready for a 30th of November release. We want to make sure it's as perfect as possible when it is released. And always what we want to do is to look after the undergraduates, make sure they get the right basic skills and the hands-on, and that's where I've put most of my time and effort. And I've never known an activity like RISC-V where there's just such a high level of interest. There's so many people doing things. There's such a thirst for knowledge. and there's a real determination, I think, to make RISC-V a global architecture, a true world activity. You know, the politics has been getting in the way, and the engineers are responding and saying, no, you know, we all want to work together on this. And you saw Guanyang show the slide with our 18 companies, including Imagination, 18 different groups, including David Patterson himself involved. And that's a reflection of the spirit behind RISC-V, and I believe that you and Amano-san and many people in Japan feel the same way. So my message to you is, I think you're doing a terrific job. We want to provide a sort of a foundation. You know, if all the students do the RVFPGA course, it'll get so much easier then for you in the future to develop that into SoC designers, into programmers, and for us to really grow this ecosystem. And that is our motivation. And as you'll find out tomorrow, the presentation tomorrow by Christoph Beetz, actually it's an exclusive for the RISC-V Day, Tokyo Days. That is the first time Imagination will talk publicly of how we've taken the Swerve core and put it inside our latest GPU. So if you go out and buy an A series or a B series GPU, which is the very latest designs from Imagination, actually RISC-V is there at the heart of it, and we'll show you that tomorrow. And that's the first really public recognition of how deeply Imagination is becoming involved in this area. So I'm going to shut up now. If there are any questions from the audience, I think Guanyang is still around and he is here. So if there are any questions about Imagination or RVFPGA, I know we're overrunning now, so I don't want to keep people from their sushi and their sake parties. So I will pause now, and if there are questions, very happy to answer them. By the way, I had to smile. Guanyang was presenting beautifully, and his cat was publicly announcing, "It's my breakfast time." It was so a wonderfully candid human moment, wasn't it?
Yes, it was great. So one thing that the RISC-V actually brought about was, like, as I remember, like working for semiconductor, particularly microprocessor companies and stuff. It's represented by its secrecy of anything that you just actually do at your workplace. You're not supposed to tell, type of stuff. But suddenly that wheel has turned, and then probably like a RISC-V had lot of contribution in this area, and then suddenly you have this open instruction set. Then we have open microarchitecture, and then we have open IPs, and then open EDA tools. Now we are talking about open PDK. So this is just actually an incredible 180-degree turn that the industry has taken. And yes. Then in it is this, yes, your educational program. So I think this is good.
It's a big change in the innovation. What it is, I think the move to open source for both hardware and software is a reflection that people just want to be able to pick things up and use them. And I spent some time at ARM, who is just sort of the elephant in the room here. And if you wanted to start work with an ARM core, you had to sign contracts. There often was a lot of money involved. Later on, they did some black box activity called Design Start. They may still be doing that now. I'm not so familiar. I haven't been there for some years. But the problem with that is it's stifling innovation. And so what I think for companies like Imagination, the value we add is in the design and the verification, particularly the verification. And it's a huge jump to go from a concept to a product, and that's really where the expense is concentrated, and that's where companies like Imagination will focus its attention. What's changing is the front end. Everybody can just pick up and start. Once it moves towards, oh, okay, this is going to become a product, then the kind of things that Imagination do, like really clean, compact, power efficient designs and verification, that becomes important. But it's pushed the costs and the contracts further down the road so the innovators can play. And I think that RISC-V will spur a whole new generation of innovative designs at all levels, not just the very low end, but also the high end as well. And that's a wonderful thing. And if we make sure that everybody's got that basic knowledge of the instruction set and some knowledge of the architecture, then anyone who wants to progress down that road can do it. And that's a very exciting thing. And it responds to that basic need, I think, that every engineer has, a bit like in the past with hardware, we always wanted to take the back off, look inside, how does this work? And it enables us to do that.
Okay, great. So again, in order to compress the time, we're not going to just actually have like lose the border between like RISC-V associations tomorrow's like a program discussion. So tomorrow we have like a very amazing thing because we happen to hit the right time to just actually have both Sci-Fi and then Microchip to discuss their PC Linux product lines. And then that's going to actually happen around 9 a.m. And then I'm going to have to repeat it in Japanese. But so,まずですね、明日は非常にラッキーなことにですね、たまたま Sci-Fi とマイクロチップが出している64ビットの5コアのプロセッサーのボードがレディーになりまして、それで Sci-Fi とマイクロチップとから早朝朝9時からですね、プレゼンテーションを得ることができます。はい。それから質問があります。Sorry that we are going back and forth. So, like somebody is asking, like, are you actually planning to have some sort of like a program, like a paid program for like the corporates in Japan, for instance? Do you anticipate? Do you have? Yeah.
So this
your
is
program.
Could RISC-V used by companies?
Right.
Okay. Well, the answer is that actually these materials are written primarily for teachers, but they're open to everybody to use. And we've already discovered that we expect significant company use. In fact, I know that Sci-Fi have been looking at this course because they're doing a lot of training of new engineers, and that's a new dimension for us. But the materials will be written primarily with the teachers in mind. We don't want to compromise the quality, so they won't look like commercial training materials. They will look like real academic teaching materials. But if companies want to use them, they are able to do that. So, Guanyang, I don't know if you have a comment on that as well.
Yeah, actually, the teaching material is for academic use, but actually we describe it as for non-commercial use. So if you'd like to train your own engineering in your company, and if you find this teaching material is useful or valuable to you, you could definitely download that if you specify that in your because before the download, we have a form for you to fill up, and if you could specify that to us that you're going to use it as a non-commercial use, and you're going to use it for training for any purposes, we are okay to let you download that, and you are free to use our teaching material. And also, we are going to have videos and online MOOC, which I believe it is also free to use, and you could join us on this modern nowadays methods of teaching.
Okay.
Final word, the red line is if a company wanted to use the training these materials and charge for them, then we would want to discuss it with them. But for the company to pick them up and use them internally for their own training, that would be fine. So we will be very liberal with the licensing and authorization of these materials, because it's in our interests, I think, both for imagination and for the RISC-V community.
Okay.